I'm sharing it all in this video. Let's face it, we can't bury our heads in the sand. Yes, I have watched Netflix's The Poop Cruise. I've been following along with the Amy Bradley story, and I was there in person when Carnival President Christine Duffy talked about how the current Carnival loyalty program is just not sustainable. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my views on these controversial topics, as well as sharing my next cruise reveal. Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome if it's your first time here, or welcome back otherwise to my channel. Now, I think it's time that we talk. And obviously, I think we do need to talk about cruise line loyalty programs. We need to talk about the changes that Carnival is making. It's coming in about a year, but they are making them. So we have to talk about that. But how will this potentially affect other cruise line loyalty programs? And let's face it, there are other current cruise related topics that are going around on social media, in the news, and maybe even in your regular life. So I'm going to weigh in on all of that, but I am also going to share with you my next cruise reveal. Now, I have to say, I am quite excited about this one. This will be the most different cruise that at least we have ever done. And I do know it is a cruise, or a type of cruise, that many of you have been asking for. Now, as always, before I get started, I did want to mention that if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or just enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Let's get started. Okay, so first, let's talk about the Poop Cruise. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, on Netflix, there is a show called The Poop Cruise. I think it might be a series of, or a limited series of maybe 3 or 4 or 5 episodes. It actually is a little bit of a good watch, in my opinion. It's a bit entertaining. But I have to say, if I had never gone on a cruise before, I don't know if I'd ever want to go on a cruise after seeing that. So let me put your minds at ease. What happened on that cruise ship was a lesson for the cruise industry. They basically had a fire in one of the spaces. Maybe it was the engine room, I'm not sure. And while the cruise ship was okay, and thank God this fire, was put out, what did happen is it actually burned through, I think, some electrical cords, and it basically meant that the whole ship had no electricity. And that was the biggest problem. And my understanding is, in the cruise industry, is, of course, they learned a lesson from that, and now cruise ships and the electrical system wouldn't be built in that way. Now, this was back in 2013 on Carnival Triumph, and I actually remember following the news at the time, and there wasn't a lot of news back then because, social media just wasn't at the level that it was now. Now, I remember, it was reported at the beginning like luxury cruise ship stranded at sea, but they've got like free drinks on the ship and food. And so some people even around our circle were like, oh, what are people complaining about? They're still getting food, drinks. They're on a cruise ship. And so what? They have to stay on the cruise ship a few days longer. But definitely, if you watch the documentary, you will see it definitely does not look like a party. And in particular, the bathroom situation. And let's face it, the idea of going to the bathroom on a cruise ship when the toilet system was not working. So that is why it is called the Poop Cruise. But keeping in mind, this is not something that has happened since. I have heard some people say, did you know that the Triumph was actually completely refurbished and that now it is another Carnival cruise? Yes, I absolutely knew that. I think it's the Carnival Sunrise. And, this is not a hidden fact. That cruise ship has been completely redone. So I personally would have no problem sailing on it. Now, I will also say that at least, thank goodness, the people themselves were never really in danger. They did have another cruise ship that would bring over food and supplies, and they were always in communication. So at least in that sense, everybody was safe. And again, a lesson was learned. But that being said, let me know your thoughts on the Poop Cruise. Have you seen it? Let me know down in the comments below. Okay, now let's talk about the Amy Bradley missing story. I do have some thoughts about what happened on that cruise ship. And then we are going to talk about the Carnival loyalty program completely overhauling. But the Amy Bradley missing story, for anybody who doesn't know, this is a show that is running on Netflix, and it is about Amy Bradley, who went on the Rhapsody of the Seas. This is a Royal Caribbean cruise ship in 1998. At the time, it was one of Royal Caribbean's largest cruise ships. Of course, not anymore. But in 1998, she went on this cruise with her brother and her parents because her parents won this cruise. Now, I feel absolutely awful for this family, for the parents, for the brother, because their lives were forever changed and they have no closure on this. Now, basically what happened is about 3 days into the cruise or so, Amy Bradley went missing. Basically, her brother was talking to her out on the balcony somewhere around 4 a.m. She stayed out on the balcony. Her father, around 5:30 a.m., says that he did see her feet out there on the balcony. He thought, okay, she's resting, she's safe. And then around 6 a.m., he says he heard a little bit of a noise. He woke up, she wasn't there anymore. The balcony door was open a little bit, and he went walking around the cruise ship to look for her. And when they did not find her, they alerted the cruise ship. Now, this happened in a morning as they were going to be docking in Curacao. And there are various theories that came out in this documentary, which I should say, I did not enjoy watching this documentary in the same way that I enjoyed watching The Poop Cruise, which of course was kind of fun. This was not a fun watch, and I actually found it a little bit anxiety-provoking. So the theories presented are that she was perhaps kidnapped, whether she got off the ship on her own or if she was smuggled off and she is being trafficked. Now, other people say that maybe she jumped off the cruise ship or maybe she fell. After all, she was out on the balcony as she wasn't feeling well. And Amy Bradley's brother brought up a new theory that was actually not mentioned in the documentary, that he believes possibly that the Scientology ship that is often docked in Curacao had something to do with her disappearance. Now, there have been various eyewitnesses, but to be honest, I did not find the eyewitnesses, on the most part, very credible. For the simple fact that in most of the cases, it took them 2, 3, and more years to come forward with what they say they saw. And I just don't think that it's very reliable. Now, in the documentary, you do see that Amy Bradley had, at the time, at least a casual, friendly relationship with somebody that was in the band. Personally, I think if he had something to do with the disappearance, they would have found that out by now. Maybe I'm wrong, by the way. And then there is also the cruise director that is portrayed in the Netflix documentary that I have to say doesn't come off as the most compassionate or empathetic individual ever. Now, something that he pointed out, and I don't even know if it would be the same anymore now, but something he did point out is they would not have stopped the cruise ship from docking in Curacao as to not want to disturb, the other 2,000 or so guests that would be getting off the cruise ship and having their vacation that day. And I don't know if that is still the case now, if that's how they would still handle, this case or a case, God forbid, similar to this anymore. So if anybody knows, please let me know. But I do kind of feel that if somebody is, God forbid, missing on a cruise ship, I do think, even for the inconvenience of the passengers, that I think looking for that person before they had docked in Curacao would have at the very least given the parents more closure. If they hadn't found her, I think that the more obvious answer would probably have been that she had gone overboard. They did have some sort of Coast Guard search and she was never found. But we do know that, searches like this are not conclusive. People are not always found. Now, please let me know what you think. Should cruise lines have a bit of a policy as to how to handle something like this if it ever does happen? Let me know also if you think cruise ships are safe. Personally, I think they're safe, but I do think that we should all exercise precautions the same way that we should if we're staying in a resort or staying in a city, high-rise hotel, etc. But please let me know down in the comments below. All right, now let's get into what I think is probably the biggest story of the year for cruisers, or at least for frequent or loyal cruisers. And this is, of course, the big changes to Carnival's loyalty program. And I'm not going to get into the details of it in this video. This might be worth an entire other video. Let me know if you do want to see that. But They are obviously making some big changes, and I wonder what it might mean to the cruise industry in general. So even if you're not somebody who is, a big Carnival fan, maybe you're a Royal Caribbean fan, maybe you're a Princess fan, Holland America fan, etc. What does this actually mean? And by the way, in just a couple of minutes, I am going to share with you our next cruise. But just to let you know, when we were on Carnival Vista about 3 weeks ago, we did attend what was called a fireside chat with Carnival Ambassador John Hald and Carnival President Christine Duffy, where Christine Duffy, to her credit, she talked about this. She was quite frank and she was quite plain spoken. And personally, I like it when people just say it like it is. And I did feel that that's what she was doing, whether you agree or you disagree. And one of the things she said is that the idea of lifetime loyalty status is just not sustainable. And while I completely understand that, I also see what people do not like about this new loyalty program. Now, there is a credit card rewards program component, and they do say that they are going to be working out the details. There's also a casino rewards program component. And time will tell with all of that. And something, by the way, that Christine Duffy did mention is even in terms of the credit card or even other ways to earn points, there might be different ways like doubling up on points and different promotions that are offered. So when we estimate that we might have to spend like $30,000 in 2 years or something, that is not necessarily the case. It seems, at least from what she was saying. But the idea of it not being sustainable to have everybody have these high rewards points, I could understand. That being said, for people who have spent their money with Carnival, and it would be the same if I was talking about any other cruise line, and they've really been loyal, I could understand that this is definitely not sort of customer forward. And for that, I do wish there was something else that could be done. Now, I've heard some people say maybe that Carnival could have, added more tiers, and maybe that was one way. Maybe there's a hybrid. I don't know. Maybe there will be time that they'll re-look at this, because the one thing that I would say is, for people that are at the highest level, by the way, the one good thing that Carnival is doing is after the new program is in effect, you get another 6 years where you still maintain that highest loyalty status. And I believe the second highest loyalty status, you get 2 years. And while that's good, I just don't think it is encouraging loyalty. And while, by the way, I could be wrong, because the new program can come in and maybe it's going to be a lot better than I think. But I do think for a lot of people that whether it's Carnival or another cruise line, when you are loyal to that cruise line, you feel an identification with it. And I think this is kind of fracturing that. I don't know if it's broken, but I think it is putting a little bit of a fracture. And I do think it's important to still not only offer a rewards program, but offer a loyalty program where people do really feel that affinity with the cruise line. So I think that's important. That being said, what do I think for other cruise lines? I think other cruise lines are watching this, and not all of them, of course, because some are going to go the opposite direction. They're going to really lean into, we are very loyal to our passengers, and I think that that's really smart. But other cruise lines might be saying, you know what? When we are giving these loyalty points, are we getting people who are cruising with us and just not spending enough money? Now, thinking about the passenger, and I am first and foremost a passenger, so obviously that is the most important thing to me, but also we have to be realistic. They are thinking about business. So I could understand a component of a loyalty program being attached to how much you spend on board and on your cabin. I'd have no problem with people who are booking in suites having higher points, which I think they probably do already. But beyond that, if your cruise is more expensive because you're traveling at Christmas time, why should you not get more points because you are booking that cruise then rather than, off season or something like that? And if you're booking your shore excursions with a cruise line or specialty dining, or paying for other things, beverage packages, why not get points for that? When I go to hotels, sometimes we get extra points for eating at the on-site restaurant. I never find it a bad thing to get extra points for those things. Now, I've heard some people say that they should grandfather everybody in. I just don't know if on a business perspective, if that is feasible for them because that would mean also the children. And that being said, I mean, the fact that they have so many loyal cruisers, a lot of people would be happy in business to have that problem. But I do also get it. That being said, let me know not only what you think about this, because I think a lot of people have their thoughts. People have been clear, but let's add suggestions. What could they actually do? Add your suggestions down in the comments below. Whew, we got here. Thank you for your patience as we got through a little bit of a chattier video. So our next cruise, well, this is a cruise that we have been wanting to do for actually quite a long time. And being honest, I wasn't sure, and I don't think Frank was sure, if we'd really like this type of cruise. At least for years, we weren't sure. In the last couple of years, it's been something that's kind of been a little bit on our wish list. And I know a lot of you have asked us to share it with you. So we are going to be doing a river cruise on the Danube. Now we're doing our river cruise with Amma Waterways, and we are going to be sailing on Amma Magna. Now, if you've done a river cruise before, if you've sailed on Amma Magna or even with Amma Waterways, let me know down in the comments below. We're really looking forward to it. I've heard the food is really good on Amma Waterways, and something I think that is pretty cool about the ship that we're going to be on is the fact that it's a double wide river cruise ship. So you actually have a pool on the top deck and a hot tub on the top deck and a pickleball court. So this kind of does appeal to me. I think it'll be a little bit less small than some of the other river cruise ships. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I really can't wait. And I am so curious about what are the differences between an ocean cruise and a river cruise. I know there are going to be a lot of differences. I'm just not sure. Am I going to like it better than ocean cruising? It is going to be on a small ship. Am I going to find, there are not enough things to do? I'm not really sure. But what I do know is we're going to love the travel experience. So we're going to be going to some really interesting places. I'll leave the itinerary up. A couple of the places that I'm really looking forward to go is Vienna in Austria and Salzburg. We're going to do a little day trip there, an excursion. And Frank's father is actually from the Salzburg area. And so Frank did go there when he was younger, but hasn't been back, obviously for many, many, many years. And I've never been, Ethan's never been. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Now we're going to be sailing on August 17th. So if you happen to be on that cruise ship, now there's only 196 passengers on board. So there's a high likelihood that, there won't be anybody from this channel. But if you are on that cruise, please do say hello. Now, most importantly, please do let me know your questions about this river cruise, because I am going to try while I'm on the river cruise ship to actually share with you our first impressions and answer your questions right from the river cruise. Now, I always like to be transparent, so Amma Waterways is hosting us on this cruise. Now, I am paying for our own hotels and our own airfare, but we absolutely can't wait to share the experience with you. Now, if you are interested in going on a river cruise, whether it's with Amma Waterways or any other river cruise line in the future, let me know. You could even just comment river cruise down below, and I'll happily share, the different ports and different things to do and any things that might be helpful. Now, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye for now and happy cruising.